Every existence multiplied by possibility. Life, a precious gift, persevering in the face of every obstacle. Until, finally, the age of heroes was born.
Why'd you choose a condemned building?
What? No, this is not a condemned building. No, listen, this is an old Star Labs research facility that nobody uses. And what's even better, no one knows it exists.
Good for you.
No, good for us. I figure we could all use this to gather if anything ever happens again.
It's a great idea, Barry.
Thanks, Superman.
Oh, it's like that.
Don't worry, I was in your kid last year.
All right, listen, I haven't even showed you guys the best part yet. You ready?
Oh, nice. Should have lived with that, bro.
Yeah. Not bad.
I love it. It's perfect. Sounds like we need to call pest control.
What was that?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Crisis on Infinite Earths video for the end credit scenes and all the stuff that they set up. I'll also talk about what's going on with future crossovers, the Superman stuff, what happened to the Smallville characters, and all the Green Lantern stuff that they're setting up for the Green Lantern HBO show. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're doing that Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the end credit scenes. Obviously, spoiler warning for all the stuff that happened during Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think most of you have seen it or seen the most important parts by now, so hopefully you're at least a little caught up. But the big stuff here is they're obviously canonizing Green Lanterns in the Green Lantern Corps to the Arrowverse, using footage from the Green Lantern movie. So they're basically saying that Ryan Reynolds' movie is now canon to the Arrowverse, but it's also meant to be a teaser for the Green Lantern HBO show that they're working on that's going to premiere in the next couple of years. They even just released a brief synopsis in the plot description for that TV show, so this will get you really excited. It's going to span multiple decades, covering Sinestro and the lives of two different Green Lanterns. They didn't say which Green Lanterns, but odds are pretty good that it's Hal Jordan as the first one and then John Stewart as the second younger one to come along. The synopsis actually kind of makes it sound like they're doing the plot of the planned Green Lantern Corps movie that they had originally wanted to do, but doing it as an 8 to 10 episode HBO show. Probably closer to 8 episodes, though, because the budget's going to have to be ridiculous in order for them to do the special effects. I don't know if this means that they're not going to do the Green Lantern movie anymore. Jeff Johns was working on a script a couple years ago when he set up his new production company, but we haven't really heard any updates about that since then. That movie was pitched as Lethal Weapon in space, with an older version of Hal Jordan teaching a younger rookie version of John Stewart. It sounded really cool, so hopefully at some point they'll get to do Green Lantern in the movies. But I'll cover more of that in my videos when they give us some more official details. They'll probably start doing that when they get ready to drop the Green Lantern HBO show. Oliver narrates all these end credit scenes and cameos, doing a new origin for this multiverse. Remember, they rebooted everything DC Rebirth style, big Easter egg for the DC Rebirth of the comics. I take that to mean that he hasn't been completely wiped, but exists in a kind of limbo cosmic state. There are a billion reasons why cosmic characters don't walk around showing up all the time to talk to the characters. They also probably didn't want to ruin his eulogy at the end in the Hall of Justice. The one thing that they didn't do during these end credit scenes was have a scene from the Justice League movie to let us know which Earth number corresponds to Ezra Miller's Flash character and the other Justice League characters like Wonder Woman, Henry Cavill's Superman, Batman, Aquaman. I think there are probably a couple reasons for that. Mostly they just want to get too complicated with things because the Flash movie is going to be doing the Flashpoint plot or a version of Flashpoint. So I think they want to let them do their own thing. And the idea that you get a movie actor cameoing on the TV show was already a huge deal. So they probably just wanted to leave it at that. Warner Brothers as a studio has also kind of changed their movie plans for how everything connects and crosses over. It gets a little bit complicated like the Robert Pattinson Batman movie and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. Best examples of two movies with really core DC characters that aren't really connected to any of the other movies that are happening. Wonder Woman 1984 still technically connected to the DCEU, but because it's set during the past, there's no big crossover scenes with the other characters, unless there's some secret post-credit scene that we don't know about set in present day. Birds of Prey is another example of a DC movie that is connected to all the Justice League timeline films in present day because it takes place right after the events, or a little while after the events of the first Suicide Squad movie. Which, of course, they're completely sort of wiping from the timeline with James Gunn's reboot of the Suicide Squad franchise. It does sound a little confusing when you dig into it, so I'll just address the timeline and continuity for each different DC movie when they come along, so don't worry too much about that right now. But speaking of Justice League, then they have their big Justice League Hall of Justice scene with Barry finally making it official. They introduced this Hall of Justice looking building a couple years ago during the Dominators crossover, but it was mostly a throwaway joke, like wow, we should do something with this someday. The whole idea is this is just a spare warehouse that belongs to Star Labs, so technically Barry owns it, they weren't using it for anything, but the facade is designed to look exactly like the Hall of Justice from the Super Friends TV show, so you knew at some point they were going to be doing their TV Justice League. It was just a question of when they were going to do it, and when they were going to quote-unquote unite the seven members of the Justice League. That's why there are 7 chairs, plus the one for Oliver as a sort of memorial. Yes, I totally think that Stephen Amell is going to come back at some point and cameo in a future crossover just to kind of keep one foot in the door. So he's not gone completely, even though they killed him off, turned him into the Spectre, and they're ending the Arrow TV show. If Tom Welling will come back for a cameo after Smallville went off the air almost 10 years ago, then Stephen Amell is totally going to come back and cameo every once in a while. You could also say that them leaving the 8th seat is sort of a backdoor for a Green Lantern to potentially get a seat at the table eventually because of this HBO Green Lantern TV show, but they've been really cagey about how that's connected or not connected to the DC TV shows. Early prediction, because it's going to be on HBO, it'll look very different, it'll be way bigger than all the other DC TV shows, is that it won't be any more connected to the DC TV shows than, say, like Titans. So Titans crossed over during Crisis on Infinite Earths. They had a scene, but when are you actually going to see those Titans characters actually appear in a big way during an episode with the Flash characters, Superman, or anyone else? Probably not anytime soon. On top of that, no one in this final end credit scene says the words Super Friends or Justice League or League of any kind. They just sit down at the table and have that funny moment. I think that's because, one, they're not allowed to use the term Justice League officially, and they're just trying to be as ambiguous as possible about it. The actual final end credit scene with Gleek is, one, basically a Super Friends TV show Easter egg because he was the monkey from that TV show, and they play the theme song from the Super Friends TV show. And 2, they're probably actually going to do that character at some point, even though he as a character would have to be full CG, and he's totally ridiculous. If you've ever watched the Super Friends TV show, it's totally ridiculous. It was designed to be that way on purpose, but the tone of this episode got a little ridiculous, and because it's meant to be the Legends episode of the crossover, and Legends as a show is pretty ridiculous, I think them having this funny moment with Gleek at the end is totally in keeping with the tone of the rest of the stuff that they're doing. But there will be a crossover next year with basically these 7 characters you're seeing here, including Black Lightning probably coming back, because now his Earth is technically Earth Prime, so all the Black Lightning characters just live in Freeland on Earth Prime. Because they're starting their Superman TV show in the fall, and he's basically their big A-list character, the next big crossover villain might wind up being a big Superman deep-cut villain like Brainiac. It would be the easiest slam dunk in the world to do Brainiac. They're also kind of implying that this version of Lex Luthor is going to become the president of Earth Prime because they rebooted the multiverse, but now suddenly he's this hero to the people. Everyone loves him. He's running the DEO. It's just like they're setting him up to become the US president. Even though you don't see Tom Welling or the Smallville characters come back, they did explain that all the Smallville stuff was put back the way that they left it. So those characters are fine. They didn't really mess with any of the stuff that they had established during the Smallville scene with Tom Welling earlier in the crossover. So all that stuff still stands after they rebooted the multiverse. A lot of people also wondering where the hell Reverse Flash is during this crossover. I was kind of upset by the answer that Mark Guggenheim gave. They included him in some of the promos, so they implied that he would appear in some way, and there was all the future newspaper stuff that they've been setting up on the Flash for the last 6 years. This will probably make you upset, but Mark Guggenheim basically said that they didn't want to do something that another writer set up. So the people that set that stuff up on the Flash with the future newspaper back in season 1 don't work on the Flash anymore. None of those writers, those showrunners, are still associated with the DC TV shows. So you have a bunch of other writers coming in later deciding that they don't want to deal with the stuff that the other writers set up, which to me is kind of upsetting. I feel like it'd be pretty easy to have included him in some way. I'll do a couple more Crisis on Infinite Earth videos, I'll do some more Green Lantern stuff, but if you have any special requests or are there any big Easter eggs you want me to do videos for, just let me know in the comments. I'm working on another new big Spider-Man Morbius video that should post tomorrow. While you wait for everything, click here to rewatch that scene of Ezra Miller's Flash crossing over with Grant Gustin and all my Easter eggs, and click here for that brand new Spider-Man Morbius trailer. Thank you so much for watching, everybody stay awesome, I'll see you guys tonight.